Forget the silent grey ruins you see today. You are in Rome, but you are blinded by the gleam of white marble and gold under the imperial sun. The air vibrates with the roar of 50,000 people in the Colosseum and the scent of exotic spices from every corner of the known world. Suddenly, Trajan's legions march in triumph beneath monumental arches. Welcome to the 2nd century, the capital of the universe, the center of absolute power, and the most glorious city mankind has ever built. On Historia Reconstruida, we rebuild the eras and cities that define the world and give them a visual identity. We are starting with this journey into the past. If you walked through Rome in the 2nd century AD, you would not be entering just any city. You would be stepping into the beating heart of the known world. A metropolis that did not just rule territories. It absorbed cultures, wealth, and people from 3 continents. Over 1 million people lived here. It was the world's largest city. The air was thick with smoke, sweat, and spices from places you could barely imagine. But the most important thing was not that. It was the constant feeling that everything was on the edge. Here, every street told a story, and not all of them had happy endings. The streets beneath your feet were not just dirty, they were alive. Every step kicked up dust, organic waste, and trash piled along the edges of the road. The ground was not simply filthy, it was moving. Sewage, garbage, animal remains. It was all part of the daily landscape. Some main roads were paved with large stone slabs, built to handle the constant traffic. But step just a few meters off the main path and everything changed. Narrow, uneven, slippery alleys. The noise was constant. Cartwheels clattering on stone, vendors shouting their deals, arguments, animals, hurried footsteps. Rome never rested. And this is where it all shifts. Because this chaos was not an accident. It was the price of power. Around you, buildings rose unevenly, almost chaotically. The domus of wealthy families hid behind plain walls that gave nothing away from the outside. But step through their doors, and the contrast was brutal. Open courtyards, interior gardens, fountains, detailed mosaics, walls covered in frescoes. It was another world, silent, ordered, controlled. Yet step back into the street, and that illusion vanished. Insulae dominated the cityscape, multi-story buildings thrown up quickly with cheap materials. This is where most people lived, and you could feel it. Narrow stairways, cramped rooms, unstable structures, frequent fires, sudden collapses. Here, living higher up did not mean living better. It meant being closer to danger, and you understood quickly. Rome was not a fair city. The city was not designed for comfort. It was designed to sustain itself. Patricians, plebeians, freedmen, and slaves coexisted in a fragile balance that could shatter at any moment. While some enjoyed endless banquets with food imported from across the empire, others depended on the public grain dole. Without that supply, they did not eat. And this is where everything changes, because Rome's stability rested on something as basic as bread. If it failed, chaos was not far behind. As you moved toward the center, the landscape transformed. The Roman Forum opened before you as the core of everything. Politics, commerce, justice, it all happened here. Senators moved with authority, surrounded by clients and attendants. Merchants haggled loudly. Orators tried to grab the attention of passers-by. But the most important thing was not the movement. It was what it represented. Here, decisions were made that affected millions of people, and the very functioning of the city was defined. Nearby, temples rose imposingly. Marble columns, grand staircases, statues of gods watching in silence. Religion was everywhere. Animal sacrifices, smoke rising to the sky, priests repeating rituals maintained for generations. But this was not just faith. It was structure. It was control. Ignoring the gods here was not an option, because in Rome, the divine and the political were completely intertwined. And breaking that balance had consequences. And then, without warning, it appeared before you. The Colosseum. Massive, imposing, dominant. Tens of thousands of people packed its stands. The sound was deafening. Shouts, applause, tension. The arena stained red. You did not know if you were watching a spectacle or an execution. A gladiator fell, The crowd decided thumbs up or down. And the most unsettling thing was not the violence, it was how normal it all seemed. Nobody looked away. Because this was not just entertainment, it was a message. Rome had absolute control over life, over death, over what it meant to be human within its borders. But Rome did not live on spectacle alone. If you moved away from the center, the markets swallowed you with their energy. The smell of fresh bread mixed with fish, oil, wine, and spices. It was organized chaos. Goods arrived here from across the empire. Egypt fed the city with its grain. Hispania shipped oil in giant amphorae. From the east came fabrics, perfumes, luxury items. Rome did not produce everything it consumed, it absorbed it. And this is where everything changes, because this dependence made it powerful, but also vulnerable. The port of Ostia was proof. Ships arrived constantly, loaded to the limit, a continuous flow. No pause, no room for error. Without this system, Rome did not survive. But even with everything running, the tension was obvious. All it took was one storm, one bad harvest, one delay, and the entire city felt it. Not everyone you saw here had tomorrow guaranteed. When night fell, everything changed again. There was not enough public lighting. Shadows ruled the streets. The noise died down, but the danger increased. Violent gangs, thieves, conflicts. Walking alone was not a good idea, and you felt it. Because here, the night did not belong to everyone, only to those who could afford protection. And yet, life went on. The public baths were full. Steam, conversation, laughter. They were not just baths, they were social hubs. Deals were made, news was shared, relationships were built. For a few hours, social differences seemed to blur, but it was only a pause, a brief illusion in a city that never stopped moving. As you walked through the noise, the dust, and the crowd, one thing started to become clear. All of this was not senseless chaos. It was a system, an unstable equilibrium that worked because every piece played its part. Trajan's legions expanded the borders while Rome consumed the resources of the known world. Every military victory fed this city. Every conquered territory sustained this impossible pace. And you were in the middle of it all, feeling the heat, the noise, the pressure, and then you understood. Rome was not built to be perfect. It was not built to be fair. It was not even built to be stable. It was built for something much simpler and much more dangerous, to dominate. And as you walked away, you looked back one last time, and the city remained the same, noisy, unstoppable, indifferent. This city was not designed to last in balance. It was designed to impose, and for a time, it did. But that is where our journey into the past ends. Would you have wanted to experience this incredible Rome? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this dive into history, hit the like button, subscribe to Historia Reconstruida so you do not miss any journeys, and click on this video if you want to keep discovering the best kept secrets of our past.